Why is the evil Class 10D suddenly so good these days?
Yes. These days they study my subject very hard. That class is very docile, no noise.
So is mine. At first I thought I entered the other class. Recognizing that teacher Deva is really good, it wasn't long before he entered the school that there was a way to treat that class.
Yeah, Class 10D's score in the past month has been gradually increasing, now ranked third in the whole 10th grade.
Yes, but at first we suspected that he left the school because he was afraid of that class.
Yeah, but he doesn't usually communicate with us, does he? I've only met him a few times, most of the time he's gone.
During the lunch break, the teacher's room was still as busy as ever.
My name is Deva, the main character mentioned in their discussion, is not present. To be more precise, I don't usually appear in front of the other teachers in this school. The reason is simply because most of my periods are in Class 10D. And every time I appear in Class 10D, I dress up as a beautiful female teacher. I don't know if dressing like that violates school rules, because basically, it's not even mentioned in school rules. I don't mind appearing in front of people as a girl, but I'm not a person who likes trouble. Even though the rules didn't mention it, to avoid accidents, I didn't want to appear in front of anyone, except for my students, in the form of a girl. The few times other teachers see me at school are usually math periods from another class that I teach. The 10D students are the first students in my life as a teacher. Therefore, I put my whole heart into them. The academic performance of the students in Class 10D is not inherently weak, it's just that they are disruptive and do not study hard, so the scores are so bad. Now they have the motivation to study, that is, every day they can see me as the female beautiful teacher, combined with my dedicated teaching, it didn't take long for the Class 10D to improve. My knowledge is relatively wide, so in addition to math, I intentionally teach other subjects for them. Therefore, Class 10D's third place achievement in the whole grade is a real honor. Not to mention, I think this third place is only temporary. But there are things that no matter how hard you try, you can't change it overnight. While the scores of most of the students were skyrocketing, there was still one student who gave me a headache. That is Carrie, the student who used to be aggressive with me before. Since he apologized to me, Carrie has really improved. But for some reason, a few weeks ago, he returned to the same state as before. Not to mention, he's been absent from class all week. This is clearly not normal, and it is the responsibility of a homeroom teacher like me to find the cause. Today is Friday, Carrie is still not in class. At the end of the class, I went to the smart-faced student to ask.
Dante, do you often play with Carrie in your group? Do you know where Carrie is going these days?
Dante smiled and replied.
Actually, we just played together at school. When we get home, almost everyone is under house arrest, because our parents are mostly the most powerful people in the city.
I asked again.
So Carrie is the son of a powerful family in the city, too.
Dante replied.
No. Almost all 10D students come from rich and powerful families, but not everyone is like that. Carrie's family is also normal. If you wanted to ask where he was, I would think of a place, but I'm not sure either.
I was impatient.
Where is that?
Dante said.
Black Pearl Bar.
The bar. What does a high school student go to a bar for? But this is not the time to think. I gently stroked Dante's hair.
Thank you very much.
After saying that, I left the classroom immediately, leaving Dante still standing there dumbfounded. After a while, he flashed a smile, wondering what he was thinking. I ran to the parking lot and rushed to the Black Pearl Bar to find out the situation. I was in such a hurry that I forgot I was still in the form of a girl. As soon as I entered the bar, I heard the sound of an argument in a corner of the room. There is currently a group of young men who look like delinquents. Unexpectedly, Carrie was also among them and he was bowing to a guy who was probably the leader.
Mr. Dax, please be responsive to me. Allow me to leave this gang. I want to focus on my studies.
Carrie said in a pleading voice. The leader showed disgust on his face.
You've told me this 5 times already. You already know our rules since joining, how can it be so easy to leave? Our work is inherently not clean, leaving you to leave the gang is like creating a threat. Since when do you like studying? I've never heard of it before.
Carrie still bowed his head and said.
I swear I will never do anything that is detrimental to you. Please let me out the gang.
Dax suddenly stood up and kicked Carrie in the head, causing him to fall on the floor. Dax said coldly.
You're so annoying. Want to leave the gang? Then you die and it's over.
Finished speaking, Dax ordered the remaining guys to beat Carrie. Of course, I can't let that happen. I rushed to Dax's face and shouted.
Stop. Who are you? Why would you want to put my student at a disadvantage?
Hearing my voice, Carrie looked up and shouted.
Why are you here? You go now, this bar is Mr. Dax's area.
One of Dax's juniors was about to swing his legs to kick Carrie, when Dax suddenly ordered.
Wait.
The junior stopped and looked at Dax with a bewildered face. Dax turned to look at me with appreciative eyes.
Are you Carrie's homeroom teacher? I already know the reason why Carrie definitely wants to leave my gang and focus on his studies. I'm Dax, the leader of the Black Pearl gang, doing the dirtiest things you can think of. Carrie is a member of my gang, so I want to teach him, but it's not your turn to stop me. But if you are determined to take him away, there is a way. As long as you follow me for a while, I will let him go.
Carrie shouted again.
No way. You definitely can't go with him.
Looking at Carrie, who was surrounded by at least 10 guys. I responded to Dax's request.
Okay, I will do what you say.
As soon as I finished speaking, Dax led me into another room in this bar. Accompanying him were 5 more juniors. This guy seems to be afraid of death. Behind me is still Carrie's descent. As soon as I entered the room, Dax quickly closed the door and ordered the 5 juniors to hold me tight. Dax said.
Take off her clothes for me.
The 5 juniors stared at me with despicable eyes, and they began to unbutton my dress one by one. Of course I let them do it. Once I tried to resist, these 5 guys were soon hospitalized. Today I wear a black round neck dress with a flare, used for walking around the city. The dress has a white collar and sleeves like a fake shirt inside so that the design is not too monotonous. In the center of the dress was a row of connecting buttons, so they were easy to take off. After they opened the last button, my whole body in black lace lingerie was revealed. Over the past few months, I've added quite a bit of women's clothing to my wardrobe. I didn't intentionally choose lingerie that was too sexy. Most of these women's items are my nod as soon as the salespeople introduce the products. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, they tend to choose sexy lingerie for me. I myself don't care too much, just wear it. Unexpectedly, this sexy black lace lingerie is now highlighting my slim figure. All the women's clothes I later bought with my salary. At first, it was true that it was a bit of a waste of money, but after a long time feeling the comfort of women's clothing, I consider buying them is a hobby worth the money. I have a very feminine face and body, so women's clothes suit me strangely. Even later, when I intentionally went shopping in women's clothes, the salesperson did not doubt that I was a man. It's not that I'm narcissistic, I'm pretty confident in my beauty. It's the result of my efforts. Why can't I have the right to confident in myself? By this time, Dax also covertly stared at my sexy body in lingerie. He couldn't even help but raise his hand to touch my waist. Dax said.
Beautiful face, great figure. The chest is a bit flat but the body is still perfect.
I chuckled quietly. Flat-chested is right, because I'm not a woman basically. Thanks to a special method, he also didn't notice anything unusual about my lower body. I interrupted Dax's line of thought.
Are you satisfied? Can I take Carrie away?
Dax laughed loudly.
Haha. Do you still think I will let Carrie go? Now that you yourself have a hard time getting out of my hands, do you have the time to care about it?
I shook my head.
It turns out that you didn't want to negotiate. Well, then.
Dax made a teasing face.
So what?
Before he finished his sentence, I jumped off the 5 of his juniors and gave each of them a kick in the face. Dax was too surprised by this situation, so he didn't take precautions. I quickly threw an uppercut on his stomach, making him gasp. After dealing with 6 guys, thinking that Carrie was still under the control of the guys outside, I rushed out without even buttoning my dress. The guys surrounding Carrie quickly suffered the same fate as Dax's group. Carrie looked at me with a stunned expression. Then, when he noticed that I hadn't buttoned my dress, he suddenly blushed. I also feel there is a problem, so I look at my body. It's too embarrassing, he saw it all. But I'm also a man, why is this brat blushing? Button up my dress, I dragged Carrie out of the Black Pearl bar.
One of the Payne juniors turned to Dax and asked.
Do you need to chase them, boss?
Dax waved his hand.
No need, let them go. The Black Pearl gang are now disbanded.
All the juniors were extremely surprised at Dax's decision, but none of them dared to say a word. Because they know the leader in front of them is a terrible guy. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, Dax's face suddenly turned red. A junior near him also heard him mumbling something.
She is both beautiful and strong. I wonder that female teacher teach after school. I want to go to school.